Hi again, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Ask the Lawyer. I'm Rob Rosenthal with AskTheLawyers.com. Today we're going to ask the lawyer about something that most of us probably don't even give a second thought to, and that is seatbelts. You hopefully use them every time you drive, and you just assume they're all safe and they're keeping you safe. But maybe they're not. All seatbelts are created equally, and that can have very dangerous results. Here to answer our questions today is attorney Stewart Eisenberg of the Philadelphia firm Eisenberg, Rothweiler, Winkler, Eisenberg & Jeck. Stewart, thank you for making some time for us today.
Thank you for having me, Ron.
So what is the problem? Tell us about this seatbelt problem. I thought all seatbelts were the same. They're all safe. They're keeping me safe. What's the problem?
Well, seatbelts have a long history, as you probably know. They were first put into vehicles back in the 60s, and they first started as just a lap belt. In other words, you put the seatbelt across your lap, just like you do on an airplane, and there you go. That was what seatbelts were for a long, long time. And they actually were dangerous, particularly for children in the back seat. We've had cases where children have become paralyzed from just having lap belt only seatbelts in the vehicle, because in an accident, your body moves forward and the lap belt holds you in, but there's nothing to prevent that pressure from going into a child's spine. So there's issues with lap belt only seatbelts. Most new cars today in the last couple of years have shoulder harnesses, and that prevents the seatbelt from coming up against your waist and pressing against your spinal cord. So that's an innovation. That's an improvement. But there's still a lot of things that are not right with seatbelts, and you have to be very careful to make sure your car is equipped with safe ones.
And you were giving me an example of a certain one that we know is not safe. Is that correct?
Yes, there's a seatbelt called a Gen 3 seatbelt. And there's different parts of a seatbelt. There's the latch plate that goes into the buckle, and it holds the seatbelt in there. And you release the seatbelt with your thumb usually, or your hand. And you might remember that there's a plastic release button,
right,
usually red, that releases the seatbelt. Now, a safe seatbelt has a buckle and a release button that's totally flat. There's no raised portion. There's no ability to have that seatbelt come off during an accident. After all, the seatbelt is made to prevent you from moving, prevent you from hitting anything inside the car during an accident.
Right.
And it's also made to prevent you from being ejected from a car, so that if a seatbelt comes off in an accident, all of those safety measures are thrown out the window, so to speak. So this particular seatbelt, the Gen 3 seatbelt, has a raised button, and it can be inadvertently hit during a crash. It can be inadvertently hit by an object in the car or someone's hand. So that's a very dangerous kind of seatbelt, and you shouldn't have it in your vehicle. If you do, you need to go into the dealership and get them to fix it and put in a safer seatbelt.
And so, how long were these manufactured? And when did the manufacturers realize? Did they immediately do a recall once they realized they weren't safe?
No, unfortunately, this was not recalled. And to this day, we still have cases involving this seatbelt when the manufacturers are not understanding, or they're, at least they're not admitting that this is an unsafe seatbelt. So they do exist. They're not being made anymore, but in many cars, you still have them. They stopped making them about 4 or 5 years ago, but as you know, there's plenty of vehicles that are out there that are more than 4 or 5 years old.
Sure.
And a lot of Chrysler vehicles have them, and so they're not safe at all.
So the way to tell is just if that button is raised on your seatbelt latch, go have something done with it.
Absolutely. Don't rely on that for safety, because that's dangerous.
Tell me about the Honda case, the specific case with Honda that your firm was involved with, and what happened with that.
Well, a lot of times, vehicle manufacturers like Honda or Ford or GM, they do testing on their seat belts. They do testing on their airbags to make sure everything is safe. We had a case against Honda where our client was in an Acura that's made by Honda. Mm-hmm. It rolled over and his head hit the roof and he became paralyzed. Now you figure, if a car rolls over, your seatbelt should prevent you from hitting the roof. Right. Should prevent you from going out the door, should prevent you from hitting anything in the car that could cause you serious injury. Well, it turns out that Honda did a test back in the 90s on this Acura, and it showed exactly what happened to our client. It showed the dummy that they used in their test vehicle hitting his head on the roof. And what did Honda do as a result of seeing that one of their seat belts was not protecting drivers or passengers in a rollover? They did absolutely nothing. And therefore, they said, you know what, we're going to just let it go. The likelihood of this happening to anyone is very slight, and we'll just take our chances. Well, unfortunately for our client, that exact scenario happened, and he became paralyzed because he hit his head on the roof, when all Honda needed to do was to change the geometry of the seatbelt, change the way that the seatbelt interacted with the person during a rollover so that it would hold the person down, hold them in their seat, and not allow them to go into the roof.
And what was the result of that case?
Well, that was a huge verdict for our client, close to $60 million. And, he's taken care of for the rest of his life, but, he needs round-the-clock care. His wife has to take care of him. He's just not the same person that he was before this accident. And his life is changed forever, unnecessarily.
And did it have any result as far as any changes to those seatbelts?
No. There's nothing that we can do to change the seatbelt in those cars. We can encourage Honda and other manufacturers to fix the situation, but unless the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, NHTSA, issues a recall, they're not required to do anything.
Right. So, Stewart, if someone is in an accident and they're not, maybe they suspect there was some sort of equipment failure or something, whether seatbelt or something else that may have led to some of the injuries, what do you recommend they do?
Well, at any time you're involved in an accident and you think that there's something that could have been prevented, you need to see a lawyer. And we actually specialize in these kinds of car safety cases. So as soon as a client calls us, what we do is we make sure the car is secured. Whatever vehicle was involved in the accident, whether it's an SUV, whether it's a sedan, whether it's a pickup truck, we get the vehicle and we inspect it. We see if all the safety measures, all the tires, all the seat belts, all the steering equipment, all the airbags were working properly. So we do a complete analysis. So anyone who's involved in this kind of accident, a severe accident that either takes someone's life or renders them severely injured, they need to go see a lawyer who specializes in these kinds of cases. And that's what our firm has been doing for the last 30 years. We've handled these cases, and we've made sure that we look at every aspect for the client, because generally the clients who we represent and are involved in these kinds of accidents need financial help and need help for the rest of their lives.
I think some people might be intimidated, Stewart. They go, I'm just one person. How can I go up against a huge automobile manufacturer? Those are big companies. So that's why it's even more important probably to find a firm like yours that has experience in these kind of cases.
Yes, absolutely. They are very well financed, these car manufacturers, and they put a lot of effort into defending their cars. They hire the best lawyers. they really defend the cases. But that's why you need a lawyer who can do what needs to be done for you and has experience in this area and can go up against these other lawyers and these big companies, which is what we do. That's our specialty in terms of car safety cases, because we go up against Ford, we go up against Honda, Toyota. No matter who the manufacturer is, we have the ability, the experience, and the resources to make sure that our clients are well represented.
Great. Stewart, thank you for your time. Some really helpful information today. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Ron. It's a pleasure.
That's going to do it for this episode of Ask the Lawyer. My guest has been attorney Stewart Eisenberg of the Philadelphia firm of Eisenberg, Rothweiler, Winkler, Eisenberg, and Jeck. If you want the best information about personal injury law or car safety law, or you're ready to choose a lawyer that lawyers choose, please visit AskTheLawyers.com and click the button at the bottom of the screen so you can subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thanks for watching. I'm Rob Rosenthal with AskTheLawyers.com.